Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we are so thrilled to have in the studio with us today our friends from the Sister Cities Project, Sean McClondon, who's the founder and CEO. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're just thrilled, joined by your colleague, Leslie Bridges, a volunteer and chief impact officer. How are you, Leslie?
Wonderful. Thank you for having us.
Well, it's great. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast. 20 years we've been doing Spotlight on the community. Honored to have as my guest co-host today is Jacob Saletta. He's a senior at San Diego State in journalism and media studies, but he's also a radio host for the campus radio station. How you doing, Jacob?
Fantastic. How are you, Joe?
I'm doing fine. I know you have a question right out of the gate for Sean.
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. Just curious, what is the mission of your organization?
So the mission of Sister Cities Project is to partner affluent and underserved or under-resourced communities together in an effort to build a better understanding between people that are very different and communities that are very, very different. And we do that in areas, we do that in workforce development, business growth, community connections, and also education now. So that's the mission as a whole.
Where did you come up with this idea? You're sitting around watching my UCLA Bruins lose a football game and you decided to come up with this idea, or your favorite team, the Lakers?
Well, it wasn't doing that. But no, George Floyd, 2020, watching all the discussion around what should be done and what the challenges and issues are. And I heard a lot about policy changes, of course, which are extremely important. But I also heard, the big one, which is racism needs to end. And I think I drew off of my experience, and something hit me right at that moment, which my experience is going back between all white communities and all Black communities my entire life. So I had this different understanding of the issue. And what I came up with is that, ultimately Black and white people just don't understand each other. And communities and people that come from different communities don't understand each other. So I at that moment thought that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to put people together and build better understanding between people. So that's how it happened.
Well, and we all know this. While they might not understand each other, they certainly want the same goals. They want to thrive. They want their families to be safe and healthy and all that business. And listen, when it all comes down to it, we all want that aspect of it. Leslie, what got you interested in joining us, Sister Cities?
Well, I saw a post by my friend Susan, which was Sean sharing that he had started Sister Cities Project. And two things. The first is I thought it was brilliant that somebody would take the idea of sister cities, which is really an idea about partnering countries with different cultures, right, and having cross-cultural understanding and applying it to neighborhoods, just to be real, that are 20 minutes apart, and you may as well be in different countries. And I thought that was an absolutely brilliant, genius idea. And intuitively, I believe that proximity and that being in the same room, in the same spaces with people who are not like you or who you think are not like you, people who don't spend time together, is the way through. I think lawyers can deal with policy. I'm not a lawyer, but this is something that I can take action, and I was really excited about joining Sean just from the beginning.
Yeah, and I think once you peel the onion in this aspect of it, and I'm sure, Jacob has experienced this in his career, as an SDSU student, so forth, that here you are, you're sitting next to one. As a matter of fact, his classmate is sitting in the studio with him, Allison. It's a big class. And so now they'll be certainly sharing stories and all that business. But once you start talking to somebody, whether it's in the same class or it's in the same county, so to speak. You just find out how many things you have in common or you want to do. That's a no-brainer in this aspect of it. And you hit something, I think, that's really important, Sean, in this. I love bringing these two groups together. But one thing that my senior producer, Brandon and Ian will faint because they've heard me say it 4 billion times, we absolutely, if I can be bold, suck at listening. We hear, but we stink at listening. And as Jacob knows, and Allison too, I was honored to speak in their journalism and media studies class. Shout out to David Oates while we got him while I'm on the air here. But when I was teaching at San Diego State journalism, my first lecture was always on how to listen. And they're going, what are you talking about? I said, if you're going to be a reporter, I was on the print side, and you don't know how to listen and you think hearing is the key, you're going to be a terrible reporter because you better be able to listen. Talk about that as it just hits into your DNA as trying to understand someone, Sean. You have to be a great listener.
Yeah, just a quick story. The first thing that happened was part of the thing that Leslie was talking about was this post I put out. I was a part of this Residents of Solana Beach group, and so a Facebook group. And so I put a post out right after George Floyd and said, hey, if anyone wants to get to know someone who's Black, wants to be friends with someone who's Black, or wants to just talk about the situation and what's happening right now, here's my phone number, here's my email address, contact me. And that 3 weeks, I was booked up solid, having meetings with people in Solana Beach. I was living in Solana Beach at the time. And as I listened to people talk about their idea of what it was like to grow up Black, or their idea of what it was like to grow up in a under-resourced community, I realized that there were huge misconceptions, and there was this gap of understanding between people as I'm listening to all this. And it was eye-opening for me to hear very well-intentioned, very intelligent, individuals have this understanding gap of a community that was 20 minutes away, like Leslie said. So
before I toss it back over to Jacob, question for you. What was the very first partnership you did? Solana Beach and inner city San Diego, or Solana Beach and somewhere else? Yeah,
it started with Solana Beach in Southeast San Diego.
Okay.
So I was actually running I had been running a different nonprofit earlier in 2014 in Southeast San Diego. So I had a lot of connections there, and I had been in the community working with young people in the community and people. So it just made a lot of sense. Solana Beach being one of the most, affluent communities here, and Southeast San Diego being one of the most under-resourced. So that's where we started.
Right. So how does this start? You call your buds up in, Southeast San Diego and say, we're starting this project, and this is what you're going to do, and you're going to meet me here with some folks in Solana Beach, and that's all there is to it? Was it that easy?
No. I wish. It was much harder than that. Actually, where we wanted to start was kind of starting with the public officials, and that went nowhere. And so we had to then create a strategy of partnering organizations. So really doing it grassroots. So literally talking to organizations within the communities, talking to, we actually started with, I was a part of Encinitas for Equality, which was an organization that popped up right after George Floyd as well, Solana Beach for Equality. So I was on the leadership team of both of those organizations. And so it started with them. And it grew from there, talking to individuals. And like I said, I had connections in Southeast San Diego. So it just I partnered organizations and people together and started from there.
Right. We're chatting with Sean McClondon. He is the founder and CEO of Sister Cities Project, joined by his colleague, Leslie Bridges, volunteer and chief impact officer. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. Listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. 6 decades of doing great things for people in San Diego County, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's supports the homeless. They are there shoulder to shoulder, joined by my guest co-host, Jacob Saletta. He's a San Diego State senior in journalism and media studies, also is a host on the radio show. And I think Jacob has another question for you, Sean, and or Leslie.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want you guys to talk to me about the SCP ecosystem.
Yeah. So the ecosystem was both an idea that was thought about very early on. The whole thing that we thought about early is that in order to raise up underserved communities, we had this concept of an ecosystem that works together to allow the community to have some, economic mobility in different aspects. So that's why we have the 3 areas of impact. That's why we have workforce development, creating jobs. That's why we have business growth, helping businesses grow. And that's why we have community connections, which is essentially our community forums, which allows people to talk about different subjects that are important to them. And they revolve around race and racial equity. So you put those things together and it creates an ecosystem. Now, fast forward 6 years, we now have a physical embodiment of the ecosystem, which is right now we have a partnership with the Jackie Robinson YMCA.
Great organization.
Fantastic. And we are essentially, we have a virtual training space within the Jackie Robinson YMCA, which allows us to basically integrate all these pieces together to actually have a physical embodiment of the ecosystem working together within the space and also helping the community, because the Jackie Robinson's right in the community we're trying to serve, which is Southeast San Diego.
Right.
And we have that ecosystem also is connected to the other communities, which are the North County communities through the Chambers of Commerce. So the Del Mar, Solana Beach, Encinitas Chambers of Commerce are part of this coalition. And there are other people as well, but that's the ecosystem kind of working together to help each other, raise up each other, and create that understanding that we talk about and raise up the economic mobility of the community.
Right. So Leslie, you've been with the organization for how long?
Since the beginning, 6 years.
So very good. With Susan Taylor, our good friend Susan Taylor, recommended on this. So how have you seen the growth now? It's been 6 years. Here comes Sean with this idea, which makes all the sense in the world. What were your thoughts from then and how the organization has progressed now?
Well, I think we have made a ripple effect that we are challenged with trying to document, to be honest with you, because the way that people measure nonprofits in the nonprofit industry is they look at data that can go on a spreadsheet. And we're really trying to capture and impact the cascading, compounding whole that takes somebody who is running a business, a small business, up late at night. If you've ever had a small business, I have. A lot of worry in having a small business.
Know it well.
That person gets invited to a mixer with people who can actually move the needle for them. And somebody invites them to be part of, this happened recently to somebody, to be part of a very large organization and for her product to be part of it. What happens there is you have a case study you can take to the bank. You sleep better at night. Your central nervous system feels calmer. Your health is better. Your family is lifted. And if you multiply that over hundreds of thousands of people, what happens is you're lifting a whole community. And I would add one thing about this that I think we have come to after 6 years, which is there really, if I may, there's no such thing as an inner city in San Diego. Southeast San Diego is a neighborhood, and it is an absolutely stunningly gorgeous neighborhood with some of the most interesting culture, some of the most brilliant leaders who I have met. And it's simply a zip code or a set of zip codes who haven't had the same resources as Del Mar, just for example. But it is an unbelievable community, and I would encourage everybody to do what they can to get to know it.
Well, I mean, when we come back from break, we're going to continue that conversation. Would want to hear mainly from Jacob and see how his, class of kids, the seniors at San Diego State, engage in these types of activities. And we all know that whether you're in the school system or whether you're in a community, belonging is so important. It seems to be the word that we're using all the time. I work with all 43 school districts, and that is the key word. So let's think about that. I know Jacob has some other questions when we come back from break with our friends from Sister Cities Project. Sean McClondon is the founder and CEO. Leslie Bridges is the volunteer and chief impact officer. And we'll be right back after this short break.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. 6 decades of doing great things for folks in San Diego County, as is this wonderful organization, Sister Cities Project, in its 6th year. Founder and CEO Sean McClondon is here with his colleague Leslie Bridges, volunteer and chief impact officer for the organization. I'm honored to have as my guest co-host Jacob Soletta. He's a SDSU senior in journalism and media studies, and also is a host of the campus radio station. Jacob, up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean, Leslie, I know we were talking earlier, especially because you were mentioning about the volunteering. And I was wondering kind of the biggest challenges that you guys have with your nonprofit funding.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. That's a big story.
That's a loaded one.
That's an important one.
Yeah. So I think, as Leslie was alluding to, we have applied for lots of funding.
Yeah.
And, just as she said, the challenge with what we do is our data and what we do is not the typical, our model is not the typical model. So I think people, one of the things that we've seen people or funders want is they want a very tangible program that they can wrap their heads around. It's very simple, and it has simple connections, and it has simple data points. Our organization is a little more complicated than that because we are actually trying to solve a complicated issue. And I've always told people, like, okay, you can't solve racism with a program, right? Yeah. So what we are actually, we have an audacious goal. And I know a lot of people look at us and look at me or whoever, however they want to say, and look at me and say I'm crazy. But the goal at the end of the day is to end racism.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not crazy at all.
No, you're not crazy at all. But, and we look at it as a 500, this could be 100 years. This could be 200 years. That's how long we want Sister Cities Project to be around. But the point is that there's no true measurement for that. So when we're out there and we have to break everything we do up into smaller pieces so people can understand it. But we're a complicated organization for a complicated problem. So.
Yeah, well, I think, the main thing is getting the word out. That's half the battle. We all know this. And you can't say it once. You got to say it 255 times in this area. And God knows that been an issue in this world. Seems to be getting worse, unfortunately. But it's you can't sit back and just say, okay, we're going to let it happen. No. They do the exact opposite. Dig in with both feet and just be relentless 24/7, 365. And that's the only way to do it. And I think it's phenomenal. I'm so glad you're working with the Jackie Robinson family. Why? Jacob, you got another question for Sean and Leslie?
Yeah, especially both of you. Leslie, because you've been here since the beginning. Sean, the founder, tell us a story that makes you most proud of the organization that you guys started.
You have one?
You can go with yours.
There are many, but I think.
I know you want to talk about the Equitable Schools Fund.
Yeah, I was thinking about, but that's a proud moment because the Equitable Schools Fund was something that. So when we set out to do this, the whole point was to, for lack of a better word, take resources and kind of, one community has resources, one community doesn't, right? So how do we share those resources, right? And so that it benefits, right, the communities that don't have as many resources. Right. So the Equitable Schools Fund was one of those things where there was a woman from Solana Beach who during the floods, I don't know if you remember that, but a lot of the schools there were impacted, and there were actually schools that were closed and the kids couldn't go to school because of the flooding.
Yep.
And so there was a woman in Solana Beach who decided she wanted to make a sizable donation to one of the schools down in Southeast San Diego. And through just because Sister Cities Project was, we were doing the work in Southeast San Diego, the woman, through her friend, reached out to her friend, and her friend knew me because I was a Solana Beach resident. She knew I was doing this work. So she reached out to me and she asked, what school would I recommend giving this money to? And so because I had the connections in Southeast San Diego and we're working there, I made a call to some of the people I knew, and they recommended some schools. And so we got the list of schools, but then we found out that there was no real mechanism. You can't just write a check to a school and say, here you go, school, take this money and do what you want with it. There's no mechanism. But it was also frustrating because it's like, you mean to tell me that there's a school out here that needs help, that needs support, right? Whatever it is, and you can't just give them this money. So we actually went on a mission we talked to the board of supervisors, we talked to the school superintendents, and we created a mechanism. So basically what we do now through the Equitable Schools Fund with Julia on our team, who she's actually running this, and she's fantastic. We're so lucky to have her, but we decided to create this thing where we raise money. And what we actually do is we're working with what's called the community schools, the San Diego Unified School District community schools portion. They have already identified the schools that need resources and what types of resources they need. So we raise money and then we just give it to the community schools for those particular resources at certain schools. And so the whole point is to try to fill in that gap of funding for these schools that don't have foundations. They don't have PTAs. We learned that through this whole process that, schools like my sons actually go to school in Solana Beach. Their school has a foundation that raises tons of money. Their school has a PTA that raises tons of money and supports the school. Most schools in Southeast San Diego don't have foundations and they don't have PTAs. So they're at a huge, deficit when it comes to how do they get the extra funding to do the programs that they need to do. So I am very proud of our organization for stepping into that, stepping into that void and doing something. So that's one of our most proudest moments.
Yeah, Leslie, go ahead.
I can give you just a short one, but I think it speaks to the kind of organization that has evolved over the last 6 years, not surprisingly, which is I'm really proud of the fact that we have one of our programs is designed to help women who are entrepreneurs, Black women who are entrepreneurs, grow their smaller businesses into a generational wealth asset. And that takes a lot of support. I mean, anybody who's at a smaller business, it takes tons of support. It takes education. It takes community building. It takes collaborative help. It takes kind of an enormous amount of time. And we have events for that group. And I will say that I'm really proud of the fact that Sister Cities Project has shown up for that group over 6 years, no matter what. And that in doing so, we've begun to, I feel, engender trust. And that the group that we are seeking to empower and help with capacity building is understands that we're there for them for the duration. And we're committed. And I just feel really proud of us for being that company.
Yeah, we're chatting with our friends from Sister Cities Project. Sean McClondon is the founder and CEO, joined by Chief Impact Officer Leslie Bridges. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest-running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. 6 decades of just really uplifting so many different folks in our region, joined by my guest co-host, Jacob Saletta. He's a San Diego State senior in journalism, media studies, also a host on the campus radio station. You brought up a comment that is all about life, and that's trust. And, when you have for years done things that make a community not trust you, it doesn't happen overnight. Sean's laughing because he knows exactly what I'm talking about on this. No matter where you're coming from, Solana Beach or Timbuktu or whatever the case may be, in this area. So building that trust, and the way you build trust, and I'm preaching to the congregation on this, is, actually doing what you say, right? What a shock that is, right? But consistently doing that. So, kudos to you. Jacob and I were talking right before the show started. So what can our Spotlight on the Community listeners do to help uplift what's going on in Sister Cities?
Wow. I mean, I think, showing up is important. I think there are so many events. I think as we've gotten into, supporting individuals, we've seen, so many events, so many things that they're doing. I think make a little effort to, just visit, go down to Southeast San Diego. I think that was one of the points Leslie was making earlier. When I lived in Solana Beach, most people had never been to Southeast San Diego or City Heights or any of those communities. So I would say, number one, visit the community.
So how do they get a hold of you? What's the website?
It is sistercitiesproject.org.
So, yes, Leslie.
I have a few more things specifically people can do, if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right. So number one, Sister Cities Project is not a well-funded nonprofit. If you yourself would like to participate in funding, you can go to our website, make a contribution. But even more important, if you know somebody who cares about this, who is aligned with what we're talking about, please tell them about Sister Cities Project, because we need larger funding as well to make the impact we want to make. We have a group of entrepreneurs who need to make use of a larger network. If you have a way to give an entrepreneur, or you're interested in helping an entrepreneur by opening a door and giving a meaningful referral to help them grow their business, please connect with us. And the other thing is that we have eco exchanges, and that is where we typically onboard volunteers of all ages, and come to an eco exchange, because that is where you will kind of get an experience of what Sister Cities Project is about. And I think those three things would make a huge difference.
So I bet Jacob and Allison, when they go back to Dave Oates' JMS class, that's the first thing they're going to ask Dave Oates. They're going to take over the class, and we're going to say, we need to get some of our students. There's 70 plus kids in this class, bright, energetic, community-oriented. That would maybe not Jacob, but no, Jacob definitely in that mix as well. And getting young volunteers is great. So Sean and Leslie, thank you so much for coming in. This won't be the last time you're on. Think about bringing in an organization, maybe someone from Jackie Robinson Family Y, which we've had on the show before, or any other groups. And it would really be good is somebody from Solana Beach or another, organization or a city or neighborhood that's working with some of the groups and talk about how they're working together. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Can I say one quick thing?
You can.
So recently launched a book that I wrote. But the book is about Sister Cities Project. The book is about the story of Sister Cities Project and how to get involved and how to actually create your own, let's just call it Sister Cities Project in your own community. I would encourage everyone to get the book if they really are. It's a short read. So if they're really interested in what we're doing and how we do it and the mechanics of it, please, get the book. It's on Amazon. It's on.
What's the name of the book?
It's called. Wow. Oh, sheesh.
Wow. Google wow.
I'm sorry.
Understanding
It's called Understanding Each Other, the New Blueprint. The Blueprint for a New America. Understanding Each Other, the Blueprint for a New America.
It's on the website too, right?
It's on the website.
Okay,
It's like I said, you can get it, Understanding Each Other, the Blueprint for a New America.
All right, that sounds good. Well, thoroughly enjoyed the interview, Sean and Leslie. Wishing you folks
Thank you.
Nothing but great success. Great job, Jacob, as a co-host. How'd you enjoy it?
Oh, this was so much fun. I can't wait to do it again.
You're going to be doing it again 5 more times.
Let's do it.
I'm Drew Schlosberg, Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest running community podcast, brought to you by the fine folks at Mission Fed Credit Union. And to our audience, we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.